Talk about cutting it close. This'll now get you 20 bucks an hour out west. And happy Easter. Here's a bucket of cold water. Hey, I'm Greg Ott, and this is your daily news refresh. We bring you all sorts of interesting and unusual news stories here each and every day. So if you like that kind of thing, give us a quick subscribe before we get going. Thanks. So if you want to get a buzz at a liquor store, this probably isn't what you have in mind.
I mean, obviously it wasn't my time, but it's probably the closest I've ever experienced it.
That guy's name is Shane, and on Thursday in Oregon, security cameras catch him walk into the Quick Trip neighborhood market. And as the door shuts behind him, look at that. A 4-foot concrete saw blade flies across the parking lot and slams straight into the side of the building.
So I was walking into the store here, I put my handle on the door, and I heard a loud bang and yelling over here at the corner. Just as a cloud of smoke pops up, and I see a guy fall into the ditch, and a 4-foot blade hurling at me as I'm walking through the doorway.
Local news talked to a contractor who saw this go down, who said operator error and a loose bolt at a construction site is what might have turned this guy's day into a scene straight out of Mega Man 2.
Oh my God, I tears all night. Like, yeah, it was petrifying. I was shaking in the store. It kicked me a little bit before I could talk.
The owner and his mom were behind the counter of the place when they heard the blade hit the convenience store.
All I heard was like a metal rolling down from the street, and I looked at the camera, it was just wind. And all of a sudden we heard a loud bang, like it shook literally the whole store.
Look at this thing. Our blade here was embedded 2 feet into the side of the building, and it took 3 guys to get it out. The contractor, who may be responsible for this freak accident that could have cut this guy in half, has reportedly been removed from work while the whole thing is being reviewed by the utility company that was doing construction. And after this video first went viral, Shane says his kids rushed home to see him.
They all came to my house and hugged me, and we had lots of cries, and I'm thankful to be here, really. And I was thinking maybe it's my time, but I don't think I would have survived being touched by that thing.
Our Blade Runner here told local news that he's still planning to shop at this liquor store. And after this all happened, quote, "I need a beer." It's worth pointing out that also on Thursday, Deadline reported that the cast of the 6th installment of the Final Destination franchise has just been set. And just in case the movie's writers are still looking for some story ideas, well, here you go. April 1st wasn't just the day that 7-Eleven was supposed to roll out its new Big Bite hot dog flavored sparkling water. Last week in anticipation, I actually made my own homemade version. And a handful of food types, like the people at All Recipes, showed themselves off giving a taste of the actual stuff elsewhere on social media.
The smell alone almost took me out. It is not an April Fool's prank. I have it here in my hands. I will not be taking another sip.
Well, in spite of such assurances this was not an April Fool's prank, the good people at the 2-numbered convenience store updated last week's press release, writing, "April Fools, we admit that we created a limited supply of 7 select Big Bite hot dog sparkling water as a joke. But it sounds like there might be more people out there than we anticipated who want to see our Big Bite hot dogs as a beverage. If you or someone you know supports Big Bite hot dog sparkling water, make yourselves known and we'll see what we can do." While I'm sure their official collaboration has a more refined formula than my brute force SodaStream Ninja Blender sparkling sausage concoction, there's actually a different piece of real April Fool's Day news that just took effect at fast food chains across California. As noted here on the state of California's Department of Industrial Relations website, all fast food restaurant employees who are covered by the new law must be paid at least $20 an hour. That's right. Back in September, California Governor Gavin Newsom signed a new law, AB 1228, which boosted the minimum wage for fast food restaurant employees in California up from an average of $16.21 back in 2022 to $20 an hour as of April 1st. Now, there are some carve-outs here. The state's definition of a fast food restaurant employee pertains to a limited service restaurant that's part of a big restaurant chain that sells food and beverages. But restaurants within grocery establishments are exempt, as well as joints inside of airports or theme parks or gambling establishments. Oh, and also very specifically, bakeries that produce and sell bread. An exemption that caused a whole thing where people thought Panera Bread was exempt from this law because some billionaire who owns a bunch of Panera Bread restaurants is a donor to California's Governor Newsom. And the Panera guy ended up saying all of his restaurants would pay $20 per hour or more. The Associated Press noted that business exemptions from this law would need to be sorted out by the state's newly created Fast Food Council, which sounds like a shadowy cabal overseen by Ronald McDonald, the Dairy Queen, and the Jack in the Box himself, but is instead a diverse group of appointed members, including a fast food franchisee and a cook trainer with McDonald's, who all met for their first meeting a few weeks ago. Anyway, with this new law in place, workers like this woman named Ingrid, who started working at McDonald's after immigrating to the US in 2019 and then started working part-time at Jack in the Box, told the Associated Press through a translator that California is really expensive and earning $20 in any job, fast food or not, is really helpful to pay for gas, electricity, and rent. But the owners of some of these fast food places are essentially observing that when it comes to items like, charged lemonade, the problem isn't that it's allegedly giving customers heart attacks, it's how much they need to be charging for lemonade.
2024 has been a tough year to date. We have soft sales, we have declining traffic counts, so for a business owner, I mean, that's the worst time to have to raise prices, but I see it as a necessity to comply with this law and then also stay in business.
This guy named Alex owns a bunch of Annie Ann's pretzel and Cinnabon places around the Bay Area, and he claims that slow sales have led him to lay off some of his office staff, and that these $20 an hour wages from this new bill means he'll have to raise prices 5 to 15% at his stores.
I want to do right by my employees, and I want to pay them as much as I can. But this bill, AB 1228, has really hit our operations hard. We're no longer hiring, we're not backfilling positions, we're not growing in the state anymore, we're not expanding more locations, and I'm ultimately thinking about selling or closing my business.
Here's the thing though. As noted by this labor economics professor at UC Berkeley,
employers have had it very good. Profits are high in the industry, and so there's also room for them to absorb the wage increases.
Yeah, in spite of these viral $16 McDonald's restaurant meals, a recent report from the Roosevelt Institute found that rising fast food prices can be attributed to profiteering, stating that between 2014 and 2023, fast food prices rose by nearly 47% compared to around 29% for an average increase in prices across all industries. And profit from marked up fast food prices has continued to outpace other industries along that same time period. Anyway, now that the law is in effect, about 500,000 of the state's fast food workers just got a raise. If only the Grimace himself could have lived to see the day. Oh, I meant to ask, how'd you celebrate Easter? Did you collect discarded eggs? Accept greetings from a rabbit? Nose around abandoned caves? Well, if you celebrated Easter Monday in Hungary, perhaps you threw a bucket of cold water onto some of the local women, because that's apparently an old Hungarian Easter tradition that dates back centuries. Daily News Hungary claims that in the old days, girls were taken to a well or trough in the countryside and doused with buckets, which had fertility charms and also referred to the purifying properties of water. The Associated Press, who was there for this year, also notes that the tradition used to be to only water the girls who are desirable candidates to be a wife. Yeah, it looks like true love there on these guys' bucket lists. The organizer of the event says in Hungarian that when this traditional activity rolls out, the local men stand with their buckets with their saying, "Women should not stay dry." That's at least taken literally in one sense here. Until, of course, everyone gathers around to squeeze the excess moisture from the traditional garb. Anyway, this is just an old Easter tradition that took place in an old Hungarian village called Holoko. And if you think dumping a bucket of freezing liquid on a woman might up your chances of getting married to her, I'd try to throw some cold water on that idea, but that sounds pretty confusing.